Changing the funding capacity of global lenders would mean that they could better help developing countries address climate change and other challenges. Now, that's just one of the key issues on the agenda of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund as they hold their annual meeting. Now, that is in Morocco this year and is currently underway. Both the IMF and the World Bank said that they want Africa to have a third seat on their executive boards. Earlier, Catherine Pattillo, the International Monetary Fund's Deputy Director for Africa, told me that returning the gathering to the continent for the first time in 50 years was a reflection of the value placed on its perspective.
The issue of a third African chair at our executive board to amplify the voice of African countries, that's an issue for our member countries to decide. As staff, we're hopeful that the members will agree to this third chair. It's being discussed now during these annual meetings. This would really recognize the importance of sub-Saharan Africa. It's a region with, 1.1 billion people, GDP of over $2 trillion, a young and growing population, abundant natural resources, immense entrepreneurial spirit, a continent which is really increasingly critical to help solve global challenges. Really, looking forward, there can't be a prosperous global economy without a prosperous Africa.
Now, from COVID to the fallout from the war in Ukraine to the mounting effects of climate change to the rash of coups that we've seen recently, Africa has faced some pretty big economic shocks over the last few years. One of the main outcomes of Tuesday was a breakdown of Africa's prospects of economic recovery. So if you could just give a bit of a sense of what the main takeaways are from that and how the IMF plans on responding.
So after 4 years of crises after crises, including the pandemic, now there are some tentative signs that the outlook in many African countries is improving. While the region is very diverse, growth on the African continent is set to strengthen from 3.2% in 2023 to 3.8% next year. And importantly, that's contributing to that is rising private investment and consumption, and that's expected to lift growth in 2024 for more than 3/4 of the region's economies. So it's not just a few big economies, but it is getting more widespread. Some other indicators are in the right direction. Inflation is falling, public finances and debt levels are stabilizing in some countries. But it is too early to celebrate. In many cases, inflation is still too high. Governments' borrowing costs are elevated, and countries face what we have termed a funding squeeze. There are exchange rate pressures that are persisting. So what we really need is stronger, still, job-rich, inclusive growth, and that's needed to alleviate the scarring that happened, to increase per capita income and increase living standards. At these annual meetings, we want to acknowledge the really incredible work and an agency of the African authorities, which we at the fund support to our utmost, and support them then in addressing these really difficult challenges that they have to then take strong reforms to allow the region and its people to reach their full potential.